All right, we have been reading from an absolutely brilliant piece by Chris Reed, who's a writer for the San Diego Union Tribune. He's written this for the City Journal, city-journal.org.
Yeah, we'll get it up on the website at KFI640.com because this is required reading.
You want to bookmark this?
This is your homework.
You want to print this out. You want to hand this out at parties and Little League games. And it's entitled Solyndra Times 7. We talked a lot about that Solyndra. They made the solar tubes. Financed by our tax money. We lost $500 million of our tax money in that debacle. And now this high-speed rail is going to cost 7 times as much in federal money that's already been granted. 7 times as much. So that's why it's Solyndra times 7. And he says, I'll just repeat what we said at the very end of the last segment, that originally the high-speed rail fanatics claimed 117 million passengers.
That's a year.
A year.
Would use high-speed rail.
This is what they said during the campaign for the proposition in 2008 that required us to borrow the money. Now they're claiming 44 million. 44 million riders a year. From 117 million to 44 million, right? 44 million passengers would be 50% higher than the entire Amtrak system, coast to coast, border to border.
46 states, 3 Canadian provinces last year did not carry 44 million people. 500
stations. Yeah,
California may be a big state with 37 million people, but we don't match up against 46 states, 500 stations.
Just doing a rough estimate, it looks like Amtrak carries 30 million a year in the country. 30 million in the country, and these people are claiming 44 million in the state. And really, it's just a handful of cities.
So listen to this paragraph. Then how was this estimate of 44 million derived? Elizabeth Alexis, a Palo Alto finance expert and co-founder of Californians Advocating Responsible Rail Design, delved into the methodology and discovered, among other things, that the Rail Authority assumed that the future cost of gasoline would top $40 a gallon.
$40.
Now, I know this is like 30 years away, right? The completion of this? Is that what?
Yeah, but you have to adjust for inflation as well.
Or maybe 20 years away, I forget.
Someday a candy bar is going to be $40, but then again, you'll be making, hundreds of thousands of dollars as a base salary.
That's true.
So $40 a gallon. This is how they pull the scams. You want to know how the global warming scam happened? It's this kind of stuff. You make assumptions that nobody can disprove or prove or even understand or explain. It gets lost in the data being fed into the computer, and by the time you get out a reading that said, oh, my God, we're all going to die, nobody knows about the garbage that went into the estimate. This is garbage. Gasoline at $40 a gallon, that's how you get to 44 million passengers? Well, when they were selling 117 million passengers, what was the price of gas then? $250?
Yeah, what was gas 20 years ago? I mean, it's getting near $5 a gallon now, but even if it was only $1 a gallon 20 years ago, that's a 5 times increase. It might reach $20 to $25 a gallon in 20 years, but not 40.
Again,
they went over the top with this. And, of course, the idea was, well, if it's $40 a gallon, a lot of people are going to choose not to drive and to take high-speed rail instead, so that ups the passenger base.
And, again, if gas goes up by, let's say, 100% over the next 20 years, inflation may go up 100% over the next 20 years. Your salary's doubled. Everything is doubled. The price of grapefruits is doubled.
Wouldn't the price of high-speed rail have to double?
Yeah, that too. Now listen to this. Then they devised public opinion polls to see what passenger interest was like, okay? Because this, again, would buttress their wacky estimate.
Apparently it was heavily biased. For example, 96% of commuters surveyed were already train riders. Yeah.
96%. So they went on trains and asked people, hey, if we build a really fast train, would you take it?
Yeah, well,
you mean faster than the one I'm in? Yeah, I'd take it. Okay, we'll mark you down as a yes there.
In California, only a tiny percentage of the state actually currently rides the train.
They probably went to every single person that rides a train.
Now, wait a minute. The way I read that, they wanted to talk to commuters, and I thought, well, that means all commuters, people that drive to work, the people that might take the train, people even bicycle. But if 96% of the people in the commuter base were already train riders, what do you think you're going to get when you ask about high-speed rail?
It's like, oh, I see you're taking the train from L.A. to Anaheim. Would you take a really fast train to San Francisco? I don't go to San Francisco. But imagine that you were going to San Francisco and there was a really, really, really fast train. I mean, faster than the Jetsons. Would you go? I've been to San Francisco in years. But just bear with me here. Just imagine. Yeah, I guess I'd go on the high-speed train. Okay, I'm going to mark you down. That's a positive. Thanks. Jeez.
Chris Reed also points out, as we already know, they only have $13 billion to build this thing, which leaves $85 billion. And, of course, we believe the $98 billion is still an understatement of the total cost. But they have to come up with $85 billion either from continued sources like the federal government, but that ain't happening right now because since the Republicans took over Congress, they're trying to kill this thing completely, and who knows what next year will look like. And the rest then has to come from private sources, investors.
Listen to this. There's a $260 billion transportation bill that's going through Congress now. You know, every year they decide that they're going to spend a bundle on transportation, right? It expressly prohibits California from diverting any highway funds for high-speed rail. And then they look to Wall Street. There is zero interest. You think of all the wacky things Wall Street investment firms and venture capital firms take a chance on, right? Remember the internet boom? Mm-hmm. All the crazy, wacky companies that they were pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into. They cannot find a single Wall Street investment firm anywhere. Any investment firm anywhere in the country willing to put a penny into this.
Unless they get a guarantee. They get a guaranteed return on investment.
Which means taxpayer subsidies.
Which can't happen under Prop 1A. It explicitly bans taxpayer-funded operating subsidies. So they cannot. Although knowing these people, John, I don't put anything beneath them.
And here's all the other doors that have been slammed in their face. Schwarzenegger wanted to outsource the construction and operation of the train to the Chinese.
Oh, didn't they just have a failure over there? Didn't a bridge collapse or something on the high-speed rail system?
I don't know if we want that expertise. He failed. In January, Jerry Brown suggested that tens of billions of dollars that the companies are going to pay for under the cap-and-trade, you know, that cap-and-trade business tax for global warming.
Right.
That could fund the project, except the California Air Resources Board said no. They already have other plans for all that money. So they have nowhere to go to get the money. There's no federal money. There's no state money. There is no private investment. There's no Chinese investment. There's no nothing. Nothing so why should we spend the $3.5 billion, 7 times the Solyndra debacle, of federal money now?
Send it back. We're looking at June, I think, because the budget deadline is in June. They have to decide in Sacramento whether or not to issue any of these bonds, the $9.9 billion in bonds that was approved in 2008. It has to be a vote of the – they can't do this. They have to say, no, don't issue the bonds. Forget this thing. Let's move on.
And other than the rah-rah cliches from the boneheads running this high-speed rail authority, where is one single person in the state giving a reasoned, detailed financial argument as to why we should do this? I know that Brown does the rah-rah routine and whatever characters running the high-speed rail is doing it, but seriously, I want somebody to match in the brilliance and detail of Chris Reed in this piece and explain where they're going to get the money and how this is going to be profitable.
Well, you know what bothered me?
It's absolutely impossible. Impossible.
The most recent development that bothered me, there's a couple of Democrats in Sacramento, state senators. One of them is Joe Simidian. I think another one's Alan Lowenthal. They have been very skeptical and asking a lot of questions and thinking this high-speed rail thing isn't a good idea. But they're being sold on this new shell game that the high-speed rail authority is pulling by saying, we're going to invest in local rail lines, and we're going to get this thing going in the high population centers like Southern California and the Bay Area. So Simidian and Lowenthal, one's from Long Beach, one's from the Bay Area, Palo Alto, said, oh, all right, well, if you're going to get some of this bond money over to local rail lines, I believe in local rail, which is nonsense, and which, by the way, should not be allowed under
that violates the proposition.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, that's one lawsuit away from hitting a wall there.
We hope. What if you find a judge that also likes dopey?
Well, then that's what appeals courts and Supreme Courts are for. I think the language is pretty clear. I remember we had a guy on who was going to file a lawsuit over something related, and he said the language is clear.
All right.
So
toll-free number is
you can do it or you can't.
1-800-520-1534. When we come back, you've heard of those